From the Arctic Sea, let's now shift our focus to the shores of France, where on the 6th of June, US President Joe Biden joined the French President Emmanuel Macron, Britain's King Charles and other dignitaries to mark the 80th anniversary of D-Day, the day when the Allied forces during World War II launched a surprise attack to liberate Europe from Nazi Germany, 80 years since the Normandy invasion that turned out to be the turning point in the war. Western leaders have come together at a time when another war is once again on Europe's doorstep. Speaking at the event, Biden remembered how tens of thousands of American troops poured onto Normandy's beaches. He drew parallels, in fact, between World War II and Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Vowing NATO solidarity, the American president said that just as the heroes stormed the beaches 8 decades ago, the world must once again defeat another tyrant and defend Ukraine. Listen to this.
And make no mistake, the autocrats of the world are watching closely to see what happens in Ukraine, to see if we let this illegal aggression go unchecked. We cannot let that happen. To surrender to bullies, to bow down to dictators is simply unthinkable.
The American president said that the same principles were at stake in both wars. They were the defense of freedom and the rules-based international order. All principles that we expect the U.S. to stand for. But as Biden stood shoulder to shoulder with the world leaders in Normandy, what was at once clear was the sheer confusion in American foreign policy. Let me explain this. Biden, you see, is facing two international crises. One in West Asia, where the Biden administration is pushing for a ceasefire and hostage deal, and one in Ukraine, where the U.S. is hoping to turn the tide of Russia's offensive. In Normandy, Biden declared that the NATO is more united than ever. He insisted that the alliance would stand by Ukraine in its hour of need, just as the U.S. stood by Europe against the Nazis during World War II. Yet, despite his grand promises to defend Ukraine, the U.S. president has decided to skip an upcoming summit in Switzerland, where leaders from over 100 countries will be gathering to discuss peace for Ukraine. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris will be representing the United States. Isn't that strange? No one has been a bigger so-called champion of Ukraine than the American president himself. So then what could be more important for Biden than peace for Ukraine? By the looks of it, a Hollywood fundraiser. Yes, you heard that right. Biden will reportedly miss the Ukraine Peace Summit to attend a campaign fundraiser in California. He is set to attend this alongside Hollywood actors such as George Clooney, Julia Roberts, other stars. Of course, Biden cannot be faulted for shifting into campaign mode, especially if he wishes to overcome former President Donald Trump ahead of the November election. But his decision to skip the meeting also reflects a broader pessimism about the conference itself. Furthermore, the month-long delay in providing additional American aid to Ukraine has led to setbacks on the battlefield for Ukraine and momentum for Russia. For this, Biden offered a first public apology to Ukraine yesterday, but by the time Western weapons arrive in Ukraine, will it be too late is the immediate question. Seeing as how rapidly Russian troops are advancing on the battlefield, will such grandiose show of support and the promise of more aid improve Ukraine's situation on the ground dramatically? As the situation stands right now, Ukraine still faces big challenges on the battlefield. Lack of fortifications, manpower shortage, a resilient Russian army. Ukraine, you see, remains the weaker party vis-a-vis Russia. Western weapons have not changed that reality. And that's not even all. Talking ahead of next month's NATO summit, Biden declared, I'm quoting, "I am not prepared to support the NATOization of Ukraine," quote unquote. What does he even mean? Wasn't a NATO membership for Ukraine the entire reason behind this conflict? Isn't that why Russia felt provoked enough to invade Ukraine? If not now, when does the bloc actually intend on inducting Ukraine? Such a statement from the American president is just yet another example of Washington's conflicting signals on Ukraine. Was this another one of the president's gaffes? We know he's been mixing up Ukraine with Gaza war and the Iraq war in his speeches. And so his frequent gaffes have only added to the confusion. But perhaps the bigger question is, what is Biden's end game in Ukraine really? Even though the US has been Ukraine's most significant donor, American support continues to be dogged by disputes. Disputes over the type of weaponry and how they might be deployed. We saw that happen with ATACMS and F-16 jets. Biden administration's support for Ukraine has often appeared indecisive, confused. So we ask once again, what is Washington's plan for Ukraine? After 2 years of fighting and bloodshed, and with the war draining NATO's arsenal, bringing both Russia and Ukraine to the talking table is the best way forward, lest the current conflict turns into a forever war. Is that what the US wishes for Ukraine? With the third year of the conflict underway, isn't it clear that the Western weapons have not actually solved the problem for Ukraine? What makes them think that the latest aid package will actually change the situation on the ground dramatically? Was Biden's grand declaration of support at Normandy a futile exercise then? Does it expose Washington's Europe confusion? To stay up to speed with the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.